All right, so surprise. So for me, a lot of times with the story, because of my background, is where do you start? I don't have internally the problem of coming up with a story. It's just where to start the story. So a little background. My mom grew up in Europe, the child of wealthy parents. She traveled all over, got a first-rate education, came back to the States and rebelled. No money from the parents, no contact with her sisters, and it was hippie communes all the way. She was trying to find anything but the way that she grew up, anything that didn't represent the man. My dad, my grandfather, was a white engineer, worked for Standard Oil, went to different countries and built rubber plants and oil plants. And when she became politically aware, that was it. She wanted no more to do with that. So I have a white mom, single white mom, and so we've had these Renaissance hippie communes, which in the hippie communes that I grew up in, and I'm just being shorthand, it's kind of cliche, but I don't know how else to really, alternative communities, all different kinds of alternative communities. By the time I was 11 years old, I had been to 20 different alternative communities, lesbian, gay, structured, unstructured, you name it. No public school education. Everything I learned was basically about how to live without running water, without flush toilets, without peanut butter, without sugar, without meat, without. So one of the things that a lot of these communes had in common, which especially the one that I stayed at for the longest time, was that the people there were self-employed. They made their own crafts, and then they'd go to shows and they would sell their crafts. This led to Renaissance festivals, because if you've ever been to a Renaissance festival or heard about Renaissance festivals, another story, I'm not going to go there, but if you get an idea, you have 15th century reenactment, it's Renaissance, it's craft shows, craft shops, and entertainers. So at 11 years old, or 12, in 1983, I was 12 years old. I hit puberty early. My hands and my feet blew up. They're about the same size now. I had a fro about this big, literally the size of my hands all the way. The kids would stick pencils in it and I wouldn't know. I had bell-bottom pants and one of those sweaters with the stripe, the velour sweaters, I don't know what they're called. So one of the things about growing up this way was that not only did I not have the public school experience, but I also was like stuck in a music time warp. So the only music that I grew up with was like classic rock all the time. You know all the words because it's classic rock. Classic, classic, classic. And I thought I was hip and ahead of the curve, and really what I was just I just was out of touch. Another thing about the Renaissance festivals and the hippie communes was they're mostly white middle-class people escaping their past. So most of the people I've met in my adult life, white friends of mine, have had far more black friends than I've ever had. Which is where I'm going to with this surprise. So when I went to Scarpo Fair in Waxahachie, Texas, which is a Renaissance festival, and is about 40 miles north of Waco, Texas, and 20 or 30 miles south of Dallas. My first year there, I met this kid who would be my best friend for about 5 or 6 years. His name was Danny Starbeck. Now, his father was a crafts coordinator, and he dealt with all of us hippies all the time in our crafts and what we needed, what we didn't know, and our lack of we're full of creativity, but not very good on the business front a lot of times. And so he dealt with us, and he loved us. He especially loved the kids from this community where I was coming from. And his son went to public school in Waxahachie. And he would come back from school and I'd go hang out with him, which was really different for me. So he was a white kid, really different. He was the first kid that I had hung out with who was my age, who didn't have my background, who didn't have this hippie / Renaissance / anti-establishment background. And he was really cool and I really liked him. So we'd just hang out all the time. So about 3 months, so Renaissance festivals happen, basically how they work is, there's 100 of them in North America, let's say they last for 2 or 3 months a year. You go to the Renaissance festival, you set up, you sell your stuff, you take down. you go to another one. So I have 3 months with Danny every year. So this was my first year. So one of the things I love to do, because the community I grew up with, was go roller skating. We had this big cement pad underneath like the circus tent in the community, and we put the roller skates on and we'd roller skate around this pad. So he tells me, or some friends are like, hey, there's a roller rink in town. You want to go into town on Tuesday night and go roller skating? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. You know, after the weekend, we'll work the weekend. When we'll get together Tuesday, we'll go roller skating. We'll get a whole bunch of kids. It'll be great. It'll be awesome. So all's good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty good. I can turn backwards and I can do some fancy stuff. You know, I mean, that's one thing I did learn in roller skating. And so on Monday, I'm telling Danny about this. I'm like, hey, Danny, we're going to go roller skating on Tuesday. Do you want to go? And this is 1983. And he's like, well, yeah, that's great. Yeah, I want to go, but can you go? I was like, well, yeah, I can go. Sure, why not? And he's like, well, hasn't anyone told you? Told me what? About the roller skating rink. Yeah. Because no one told you. I'm like, no. He's like, well, Thursdays are for black people. And I was like, what? What did you just say? What? He's like, and so he didn't mean anything. He was just telling me the way it was, and he went to school in this town, and I figured, well, he knows what he's talking about. So I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Thursdays are for black people? Are you serious? This is 1983? What? You know, like, and I was just freaking out, and I didn't even know what to do, and because I was like, there weren't very many other black people around, I couldn't even talk to anyone about it, so I was like, I mean, I could, but I had to digest it first. I was like, well, what does that mean? And so finally I went back to my booth where all the other crafters were, where we sold during the weekend, but then lived during the week. And I told my stepmother, and I was like, Danny says that Thursdays are for black people. She's like, what? She's this Jewish lady, and she's like, what? Are you serious? And we're like, well, yeah, Texas is kind of fucked up. This could be the case. So I'm going back and forth, and I don't know what to do. And the other adults are like, well, what do you want to do? You know, I mean, this is like cell phones became real popular right after this. So this wasn't like just pick up information. It wasn't like, you know, let's go Google and see if they're racist. You know, you know, white code is required for Tuesday. I don't know, and so one of the things. Growing up the way I did is I kind of starved, and my mom's anti-man stance was detrimental in a lot of ways. Educational, there was a lot of things about it which I don't recommend. But one of the things that I really do recommend is in her search to find herself and a place to live, she was also really concerned, me being a black child, her a white single mom, that I be strong. And she was worried that she was going to get that wrong. She was worried that she wasn't going to give me the strength. It was an insecurity of hers. Plus, her dad and mom were worried that I was going to turn out gay, because there was no man in my life. So my sister turned out gay, and I turned out, but they weren't worried about that. So one of the songs that she would sing to us, and we would sing every night. We would sing, you know, "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star." And then we would sing, you know, "Row, row your boat." And then we'd sing, "Well, don't you let no honky turn you around." Well, don't you let no honky turn you round. Well, don't you let no honky turn you round. So this is a little black boy that doesn't even know he's black, having his white mom who down with the man sing this with us and my wife's gay sister. And so I'm strong. I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm going roller skating on Tuesday night. And you know, and so inside I'm like, ugh. You know, and I'm feeling strong though, because I'm going to the roller skating ring with all these hippie pacifists. And so that's going to be good, and I'm feeling secure in that. And so we get there, and there's like 8 of us, and we all just can't believe it, you know. We get up, and there's the roller skating rink. It's on the edge of town. There's this big, huge thing in the parking lot. It's full of people, and I'm like, I'm going skating. And I got my fro, and I got my bell bottoms, and we go inside. There's no signs on anywhere saying, no, black people don't come inside. There's nothing like that. So remember, if you will, like roller skating rinks, you go in, there's a board up there with little pieces that you put in there and say what's going on. And you open the door up, and then there's a hallway, and there's like the concessions. And on the board, it says Tuesday nights, soul night. Surprise.